Hello and welcome to the 9 essential elements for business success. And this is a very short webinar which is just going to take you through the fundamentals, if you're a business owner, if you're an entrepreneur, to making a success of your business, of your entrepreneurial pursuits. My name is Damian Mark Smyth. I am a mindset expert. I've done a TED Talk. I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs and successful business owners. I've written a number of books about it, about how you need to think to be successful. My latest one is called The Entrepreneur Success Formula. And I've identified these 9 essential elements which all of the successful businesses and business owners I've worked with over the years have and practice on a daily basis. So let's get straight in there, and because I know that your time is precious, and so I just wanted to give these to you in a fairly short webinar that's going to hopefully be useful for you. I've also done a TED Talk as well. If you haven't heard of TED, please check out TED.com. There's some fantastic short talks on there which will be really useful for you. So the essential element, the first essential element is you need to know where you're going before you set out. Seems quite sensible, really. I mean, if you were going on holiday, you wouldn't just turn up at the airport and jump on the first plane out of there, especially not if you had a family with you. And I'm assuming some of you are in business to provide for your family, or even to leave a legacy. I mean, actually, every single client I work with, they have created an entrepreneurial business because they want to make a difference in the world. They make a positive impact with their business, with their venture. And unless you make a positive impact in someone else's life, you are probably struggling. People pay for that positive impact that you make and your business or your service does for them. So you need to know where you're going before you set out. And sometimes I work with business owners who feel a bit lost, and I ask them, where are they? Where are they now? Where are they headed? And if they don't know either of those, they really are lost. So understanding where you're headed is quite useful. And I use the example of Team GB. In 1996, they had probably the worst Summer Olympics of all time for Team GB. They came 36th, one behind Ethiopia. And through planning and through choosing to make a difference and using the lottery money, they decided that they were going to improve their Olympic performance. And they had some goals, they had some targets, and in fact, one of them was the 2012 Olympics, and the target was 45 medals. They actually broke that, and the next target was to go one better than that in the following Olympics, which no country's ever done, bettering their performance in their home Olympics. So they've actually broken a record there. And of course, they came second in the medals table in Rio, which was phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal, ahead of China, the powerhouse of China. But they set out some goals, and this was, they put some thinking into it, and they put some money into it. But they decided this was what they wanted to achieve. And so having a clear goal is a really good starting point. Now, I'm not saying that it's the be-all and end-all, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but having an idea of where you're headed is a really good idea. And you look at that jumbo jet behind the Team GB there. If that's sitting on the runway and it's pointing directly towards its destination in America, let's say it's going to JFK, if it's 1 millimeter out, it'll end up 150 kilometers out from its destination if it was to fly in a straight line. So having a really clear idea of where you're headed is a good starting point. But the second, I'll come to in a minute. But my own goals, my own success targets are fairly simple. I do what I do because I like to have the freedom. I like to have freedom with my time. I like to have financial freedom. And it gives me the opportunity to improve on myself and on the service that I provide for my clients by 1% every day. And we'll talk about why that's important later with the aggregation of marginal gains and compounding. Because I want happy and contented kids. I've got 4 children and no more, but just the 4. and that's something that I aspire to make a life for them, which is so they can be happy and contented. And lastly, I want to leave this world a better place than where I started. And I write books and I help people, I coach people to better their own business and have their own success so that they can make more of a dent on the universe and help others as well. And it's part of my legacy that I want to leave behind. I'm actually aiming in 10 years, within 10 years, to get a Nobel Peace Prize because I want to affect a large amount of the population of the world through the books that I write, which the next book I'm writing is called The World Peace Equation. So these are my own goals, but they're targets which I'm heading towards, and it's affecting how I perform on a daily basis. So what is essential element number 2? Well, if you know where you're headed, you also need to know why you're going there. So you need to know why you're in business. And as I said, most people are in business because they make a positive impact on someone else's life. I like to refer people to Simon Sinek. He did a TED Talk, a very well-viewed TED Talk, where he talks about something called the golden circle. And most businesses, they know what they do. They know what they do, and even some businesses know how they do it. But very few businesses know why they do it. And he takes the example of Apple, and you see here an Apple Watch. Now, Apple is a computer company, and yet we quite happily would buy a phone or a watch from Apple, which is very interesting because they are not a watch company or a phone company. And he breaks this down by saying they understand why they do what they do first. So for Apple, everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. And then he talks about the how. How do we do that? Well, the way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. And then lastly is the what. We happen to make great watches, want to buy one. They also happen to make great phones, great computers, etc. So putting it in that order really changes how you potentially would look at your business and why you do what you do. But you need to know why, because the motivation to keep going through the tough times and being a successful business owner, a successful entrepreneur, is not an easy thing to do. You know, there's lots of long hours and difficult situations and problems to deal with. So you need to keep the motivation going throughout, and understanding your why is crucial to that. The third essential element I've seen with all of the successful business owners and entrepreneurs that I've worked with, and is part of the success formula, is you need to do some planning. Some planning. Once you have an idea of where you're headed and you know why you're doing it, you need to sit down and plan it through. I mean, this might seem a bit simple, but there's quite a few people that don't do this. General Eisenhower said, plans are useless, but planning is essential. Now, of course, what he was talking about here was when you go into war, you can have some really interesting plans about what the opposition are going to be doing, but of course it's war and everything changes. But actually planning, thinking through the scenarios, well, what would happen if we did this? What might happen if we did this? What are the best and worst case scenarios? Thinking through on a financial basis, how is this going to be funded? We live in a very opportunistic time now where you can run a global business from your smartphone. That's never, 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't possible. 20 years, 25 years ago, there was no internet. So being able to do that now, there's never been a better time to do what you do. But planning it through is really important. My partner Victoria Groom and I, we do this quite often. We sit down and we work out what our goals are. We sit down and we discuss why we're doing it, and then we plan it through. So this is a vision board. We use a vision board every year, and we just put pictures on there that inspire us and keep us motivated. And it's something that we look at every single day and keeps us on track and on focus. But we've also got financial targets which we look at, so business and personal targets, but we also break down the finances. We look at what it's going to take to succeed. We break it down into chunks that are achievable. Now, and of course this may change, but it's giving you the thinking that you need to do to work through what potentially may or may not happen, and it breaks it down into bite-sized chunks. So this is something that we do on a regular basis as well. So you just even taking a similar map to this, where are you now? Where will you be? This is over 18 months, and then breaking it down with a number of meetings in between. Where's your business now in terms of numbers? Where would you like it to be? And then how could you make that happen? The essential element number 4 that I've seen in all successful business owners and entrepreneurs is you need to understand why the choices you make every day are important. If you think about it, if let's say you were involved in a car accident where, let's say, a lorry drives into your car and you have no control over that, the lorry driver, let's say, fell asleep at the wheel, went through the central reservation. You don't have a choice if that lorry is ploughing into your car, but taking it that you survive, you do have a choice in how you react to that event. Life is going to serve up some pretty interesting stuff, but we always have a choice in what we do as a result of those events. And in fact, as Shakespeare said, "'Tis nothing neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so." And I'll talk about thinking a little bit later. But understanding that the choices we make every day are really important is crucial to your success. And I'm going to use Mike as an example. Mike is a very successful property investor in the States. His company had a fantastic deal one day, and he took his team out for some drinks at a local bar, and the champagne flowed. He thought he only had a few drinks. He felt fine to drive home, but on the way home he was involved in a car crash where he killed a mother and 2 children. Now, Mike didn't wake up that morning saying, "I'm going to murder a family." But as a result of that choice that he made, that one simple choice, well, I'm okay to drive home, Mike lost his business, he lost his wife, he lost his kids, and he lost his freedom. And so sometimes those little choices that don't seem to be big choices turn out to be big choices, and we just have to be aware that the choices we make can have huge consequences. This is the British Olympic rowing team back in the year 2000 when they won the gold medal at the Sydney Olympics. Now, Ben Hunt Davis is 3 people from the left there, 4 if you're including the chap clapping by the cocks. And Ben Hunt Davis he's wrote a book called "Will It Make the Boat Go Faster?" And the reason he wrote that book is because of that sentence. It actually turned this team, who in 2 years previously came last in the World Championships, into the gold-winning Olympic team at the Sydney Olympics, purely because they made choices based on that sentence. So for the 2 years after coming last at the World Championships, they decided to have a goal. We're going to win the Sydney Olympics. They knew why they were going to do it, because it was their last opportunity to do it, and they made the decision they wanted to succeed. And the choices they made were based on, will it make the boat go faster? So when one of the team was asked to be a best man at his friend's wedding, he said, well, I'm going to miss training, I'm going to drink champagne, it's not going to make the boat go faster, therefore I won't do it. When they had to get on Dorney Lake first thing in the morning when it was pouring with rain, again, asked the question, will it make the boat go faster? Well, yes, it will. Even when the Olympic ceremony was taking place in Sydney, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them to be there, they were back in the hotel room watching it on the television, because standing up with the flag for 6 hours, and in fact it was even in a different city, so they had to have flown there, was not going to make the boat go faster. And if you watch the race, it's fantastic, because even the commentators can't quite believe that they're winning it. But it was because of this sentence, the choices that they made as a result of referring back to this sentence. So, what will make your boat go faster? What will make your business more successful? What could be your sentence that defines your choices? So activity, this is another choice that you've got to look at. Activity gets you busy. Productivity sets you free. So it's very easy, especially as a business owner, to be busy. Email's a very good device for being busy, whereas being productive, well, that's slightly different. So you have to think about this, because you've got the same amount of minutes in the day as everybody else has, 1,440. And I use something called the Eisenhower Urgent Important Matrix, and I do it the night before. So I look at a list of all the things I need to do the next day, and I put it into one of these 4 boxes. And essentially it lets me decide, make the choice as to what I need to do, what I don't need to do, what I never need to do, and what I can delegate. So an example, something with a deadline would be do it now. Something that's not urgent but important, which is actually where a lot of the planning takes place, exercising, calling family and friends, researching articles, long-term business strategy, that needs to be done and delegated, and put in a box to actually say, well, when am I going to do it? And the delegating stuff is stuff you don't have to do yourself, because your time should be worth a certain amount of money based on where your goals are, and you should know what that is. And then, of course, the delete, eliminate is things like watching television, checking social media, unless, of course, that's part of your business strategy. So that's my little tool. It doesn't work for everyone because everyone has their own ways of doing things, but it works for me, and I find what works for my clients, and we work together to find a solution and what works for them. Motivation is what gets you started, but habit is what keeps you going. So having the right choices on a daily basis, day in, day out. Look at the most successful entrepreneurs throughout history, and Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. They would look at the little things that they need to do on a daily basis and just do them daily, even at the weekends. So they became habits. I bet all of you brush your teeth every day. Well, 100 years ago we didn't do that. It was actually as a result of advertising, funnily enough. But habit is what keeps you going. What are the things you could do on a daily basis that are going to become habitual? I like this guy called Tim Ferriss, who wrote a book called The 4-Hour Work Week, The 4-Hour Chef, The 4-Hour Body. He's always looking for hacks, ways to get to things quicker, and that's what I do again with my clients. But he talks about systems. So I value self-discipline, but creating systems that make it next to impossible to misbehave is more reliable than self-control. When I have to get something done, I eliminate all other distractions and just focus on that one thing. Focusing is really important, and again, it's something I get my clients to do when I work with them. So essential element number 5 in your success: you need a system. Based on what we've just said, you need to have some sort of system. You need to have systems in your business. You're using a system right now, a system to look at and listen to this webinar. Well, systems are very, very useful, and you probably got one sitting outside in your drive. It's called a car. It's just a bunch of systems that work together really well to take you from A to B quicker than if you had to walk or crawl. So what systems do I mean? Well, there's a number of systems you can use in your business: a system for looking after your clients, a system for looking after your marketing, a system for looking after your time management. You could have a system that holds you accountable. You could have a coach. That's what coaches are for. Even coaches have coaches. I have a coach. Andy Murray has a coach, and yet he's one of the best tennis players in the world. So having someone who holds you accountable is a very useful thing in your business, because if you don't do it, someone else will. If you wake up every morning and check your email first thing, you are being held accountable by other people's agendas. Don't do it. Tim Ferriss talks in the 4-Hour Work Week about only checking your email 2 or 3 times a day and having strict times for doing that and letting everyone know. Well, that's a system, and it'll get you back some of the freedom that you will require to be successful in your business. So on to element number 6, and this is again something that I've seen time and time again. You need the right kind of support. Now, I don't mean you need staff, because I work with a lot of clients who don't have staff. I do, however, mean that you need to be supported by the right kind of learning, the right kind of connections, and the right kind of amplification. What do I mean by that? Well, the power of learning is huge. My car is my library. So I listen to audiobooks on Audible every single day. I listen to podcasts every single day. I try to read every single day, if possible, if I can. I read when I'm traveling, certainly. I know that I don't know everything, but I also know that learning new things is a great thing to do for my clients. So that's what I do a lot of. The power of connection is quite simple. You are the sum of the 6 people you hang around with most, and you can do a test on this. It's you can add up how much your 6 best friends earn and divide by 6, and it should work out at pretty much what you're bringing in on a yearly basis. Who you hang around with matters a lot. So if you hang around with millionaires, then chances are you're going to be a bit more wealthy than if you hang around with bozos. So think about who those people are, and if they are draining your energy or if they are adding to your life. And think of time hoovers and time vampires and energy hoovers, and and perhaps some people that are taking too much and not giving back, maybe you shouldn't be hanging around with them too much. So, and the last one is the power of amplification. So, if you want to get your message out there, then this is where using social media is actually really useful. We have tools, again, systems, which are really useful to amplify your message. Using social media properly, and this is something, again, I help my clients with, is a really, really sensible thing to do, because it's a great way to connect to your audience. You should know who your audience is. And again, this is where the right support comes in, the right learning comes in, because one of the things I do is I get my clients to work out who their target customers are, not who everyone is, because a lot of people say that what they do is great for everyone. Well, that's fine, but you need to find out who your target customers are, because they're the ones who are really going to get what you do and why you do it, and are probably willing to pay a bit more for it as well. One of the other things I coach my clients with is how to price properly for their target markets. Okay, so element number 7, again, something I've seen in all of my clients. You need to have good energy levels. Now, this one's often overlooked, and I've seen quite a few entrepreneurs who struggle on a daily basis. They eat the wrong foods, they don't drink enough water, they don't get enough sleep, they watch too much TV, they don't exercise enough. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons they're not smashing it at the level they could be. And so I get all of my clients really, really bursting with energy quite quickly by putting them on really good diet. So eating the right sort of foods, getting a good night's sleep, drinking lots of water, cutting back on caffeine and alcohol, and making sure that, and again, there's a science to this, so making sure that it fits in with their lifestyle, but also fits in with who they are and what they enjoy as well. So I don't cut back everything that's great. You think it is great because for instance, we think that sugar's great because when we were on the African plains, we were looking for fruit. So fruits, really juicy fruits, are why we like sugar. But there's so much sugar and salt in foods these days, and it's not necessary. And if you start to cut back on those, you start to actually taste the real food. Getting organic food instead of food that's just been put in ground that has no nutrients in is huge. Drinking the right type of water, not just any water. We have alkalized water in our house here. So understanding these things is crucial, because if you're if you're firing on one cylinder, everything looks like a hill. And you don't make great decisions, you struggle, it becomes a really hard task to be a successful entrepreneur and business owner. Even the Buddha said to keep the body in good health is a duty, otherwise we shall not be able to keep our minds strong and clear. And making good decisions and dealing with the daily pressures is something that I thoroughly recommend you look at your energy levels to help you with that. The essential element number 8 is you need the right habits day in and day out. So we've talked about habits already, but this is due to the subtle but awesome power of compounding. Success is the sum of small efforts repeated day in and day out. Compounding is, Einstein called it the eighth wonder of the world. And when you understand it, it makes a huge difference, because people who go on a diet, fast diets, and it doesn't work, and they end up being more unhealthy than when they started. Whereas if you look at the small things that you can do on a daily basis that is doable, and you repeat them day in day out, that's when you get the effects. Now I use this guy. This is David Brailsford, who ran the Team GB cycling team at the London Olympics and then went on to Team Sky. And he calls it the aggregation of marginal gains. So we look at the small little tweaks you can do that add up to the big impact. And I think at the London 2012 Olympics, the other team said, we thought they had rounder wheels. He looked at, for instance, when the athletes were going overseas to train or overseas to compete, the amount of sleep they got was crucial, because they looked at it and they tested it and they said, well, okay, to get a better night's sleep, let's take mattresses and pillows that they've used and actually transported them to the hotels, and they got better sleep as a result. And because of that, they perform better. It's the little things that made the difference. So the power of compounding, the power of habits, the aggregation of marginal gains, it's something that I look at with all of my clients and get them working on that from day one. And the final element, which is probably the most important one, I call it a catalyst. this is my speciality, and this is the one that I get my clients focusing on again from day one. It is, you need to get your thinking or your mindset straight. Now I want you to have a consider this for a second, because all actions result from a thought. You have to have a thought before you take action. If you look around you now, wherever you are, there's a number of objects you'll probably see around you. Well, someone had to have a thought about that before they created it. All action results from the thoughts. So it's actually our thoughts that matter most. And it's where I start. If you need to have a change in habits, a change in behavior, you need to have a change in thinking first. And I do it through teaching my clients about something called the human operating system, which is how all thinking, how all our realities are created through our thinking. This is Stephen Covey, who wrote the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he points to it quite dramatically when he says, every time you think the problem is out there, that very thought is the problem. I'll give you an example. So let's say that you have got a supplier that's let you down. Okay, well, you could react to that. Well, okay, you could react to that, but the problem is not the supplier. The problem is your thinking about the supplier, because actually it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to get a better supplier in. It's an opportunity to look at your systems, to improve the systems. It's actually, the supplier is telling you, I'm not good enough to be working with you, so this is your opportunity to find something better. So we can start to actually take responsibility for our thinking when we realize that it's inside that the work needs to be done. Accountability, we're the ones. Remember I said at the beginning, there is nothing either good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. When we understand that, we have the responsibility, and we don't have to start blaming others or anything that's outside of us, because real change comes from the inside out. Now, this is Stephen Covey, who said it in one of the best-selling books of all time, best-selling business books. It's all in there, and it's what I get my clients to look at day in, day out, to look at your thinking and your mindset first, and how that works as a system. We look at systems. We look at how your thinking works as a system, and the entrepreneurs and the business owners who really understand this and who really work with this are the ones who go on to be super successful and not just successful. And I work with hundreds of super successful business owners. So I promise you, this is where the real action takes place. And I want to challenge you. So I want to suggest that I can solve any problem for you in 3 hours or less. And I can do this because I've done it hundreds of times before. And I do it through a process I call Disrupt, Evolve, Thrive. And because whatever your problem is, the problem is not the problem is you're thinking about the problem. So let's say, for instance, you've got a staff member that leaves, a senior staff member, and it feels like the problem is in the staff member leaving. You're going to have to spend time and energy and money to get a new member of staff in. But then within, let's say, 15, 20 hours of that happening, you think, well, actually, this is an opportunity. This is a chance for me to get someone better in the same way that the supplier. And you start to think, well, okay, well, I can make a change here that's going to be really, really useful. So nothing about the situation changed, but your thinking changed. So what I do with Disrupt, Evolve, Thrive is I disrupt your thinking, and I disrupt your thinking about the problem. I evolve it by teaching you about the human operating system, and then we get you to thrive through coming up with a solution that fits in with who you are and in alignment with your own insight and your own wisdom. Because this is my website, Rethinking Business. There are universal common denominators behind all human psychological experience, and I'd like you to go to this website now and go onto the book an appointment page, and which is under the contact section. And I would like you to book an appointment with me. And in 3 hours, we can solve any problem. Now, I'm talking about if you've got chronic procrastination, if you've got anxiety or stress or worry, if you've got problems, a specific problem in your business that you want help with. I've got 20 years in marketing experience, and I've helped hundreds of business owners just like you to solve their problems. So the price for this is £445. It's usually 3 hours of my time, which is £675. And I promise we'll solve that problem, or you don't pay me. Okay, so that is my guarantee. We either solve the problem or you don't pay me. So whatever the problem is, bring it along. And if you don't solve it, that's it. You don't pay me. That is my guarantee to you today. So, and I just want you to be committed. So if you are committed, I promise we will make a difference and we can solve any problem. Because, and I'm going to end with Michael Jackson, as he said, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Now, I promise you that if you've got a problem, I will be able to help you with that problem by looking at your thinking, looking at your mindset, and showing you how you can solve it yourself. Okay? Click on that link, book an appointment, and I'll see you on the other side. Speak to you soon.